Hi everyone, and welcome to my ranking of the Nicolas Winding Refn films. Now, Nicolas Winding Refn, I've been doing a director series on his films, going through them in order, and here's the ranking video, of course, now that I've done all 10. It'll be from my least favourite to favourite. You can, of course, if you check out the description, I'll give a link for the actual playlist of his films that I've reviewed. Then we can watch that first, of course, as always, and you can go through and see my ratings if you want, and actually get a rough idea of what this ranking will be. There'll be a couple of ones that you won't know really because I've given maybe a rating that's similar or the same rating. I remember this is purely on my favorite, my least favorite to favorite. But yes, it's a rough, as always, a rough idea you can get. I'll leave the link to that below. But here is the ranking. Refn, as I've said before, when he's on form, a great director. But he's made some misfires, in particularly the number 10 to 8. Now these next three films, I do hate. In particular number 10, and we'll just start off. Number 10 is Only God Forgives, and it's the least popular, the most controversial for sure, and it came after Drive, and Drive was so successful, and really I don't know how anyone could call that a bad film. And yes, you'll see how high that is if you of course stay to the end of the video, but this film I absolutely detest, unfortunately. I'll praise the visuals for quite a lot of the film. Not great, not masterful cinematography, but very good for the most part. And there was a minute or two towards the end of the film that was okay. The rest of the film, I detested. I thought it was one of the most soulless films I've seen in a while, in recent years. And that's saying something. There's a lot of stuff like nowadays that is really just has no heart. This film has no heart. For me, I hated all the characters, and I didn't really find that they were characters, just mannequins. All of Refn's worst traits, and then some in this film for me. Ryan Gosling, his only bad performance so far. I hated his performance, I hated his character. I hated all the dialogue, really, for this film. The torture scenes are some of the most offensive I've ever seen in my life. All the violence in this film is just not done well at all. And of course, there's many violent films, that it doesn't have to be, just disgusting, soulless stuff, and it is in this film for me. And the sexual stuff is really just not done well either. It's just exploitive. I really didn't. I found this boring. I found nothing compelling. And even the sound design, I can't really praise that. Nothing in this film I can praise other than the visuals, really. Only God Forgives. I hate this film, and easily for me, Refn's worst film. And now we have a film that I didn't have high hopes for, but I didn't get disappointed too much because not much people talk about it. But really, this was one of the probably the worst thriller that I've seen in recent memory, and that is Fear X, another film I detest. John Turturro, I'm never a fan of John Turturro, really. The Big Lebowski, because he was a small part, and he did the tone of the film allowed him to kind of be wacky like that. This was I heard, of course, this was a serious role from him, and I just hated it. It was one of the most boring films I've ever seen. It was quite pretentious, and after the sort of halfway through the film, it starts becoming a sci-fi channel film. Honestly, the level of melodrama. But it's so bad. It is so bad, this film, I think. And even the bits at the beginning, it's kind of like... just compare it to Vertigo. When Jimmy Stewart is just... You see his obsession and you become obsessed through him just watching and looking and observing. And then in this film, the way John Turturro's just looking at the videotapes and stuff is sickening. It really is. And it just, it can be done well, of course, as I've said, with many, many thrillers, but in this film, no. It just became really, really boring, and then it became, as well, throughout the film, the editing's awful. There's no interesting characters. John Turturro's bland as hell, Not much to say about this one, other than, it gets worse and worse, really, and it's a pointless, boring, quite pretentious, poorly made film, cheap on every level. The script, everything about this film, really, apart from a couple of shots here and there and stuff, it's just awful for the most part. Fear X. Now next up is a film that really just it's quite laughable at how boring this film was as well. Mads Mikkelsen I usually absolutely love in films. that he's in, and he usually gives great performances. Not in this film. Valhalla Rising at number 8. Yeah, this film's really disappointing. Actually, I did, look at the back. It does look interesting. It looks really, a bit cheap. The front, the look of it, if you know what I mean. But it did look intriguing. On the back is really the only highlight of the film. The opening 15 minutes really is quite good. It has a lot of flaws and it was pretentious and stuff. But the film as it goes on, it just becomes a poor imitation of a film that I already did not like, Stalker, and it really is. It is like that a lot. The Tarkovsky film, it just turns into one of the most boring, pretentious films I've ever seen. Just Mads Mikkelsen and the characters that join him, the Crusaders, trying to find the Holy Land, and just meandering, walking through in slow motion quite a lot of the time, unwarranted slow motion, walking through, going on boats, sailing away, to nothing, to no avail, and the ending is just cheap. This whole film's cheap as well. The editing is disgraceful. A lot of these films that I've mentioned, Fear X, and they had a big budget, but I don't know where it went because all the effects look crap. The blood effects really off-putting, considering the gritty kind of the dark feel of the rest of the film. But I can't even really praise the cinematography for a lot of the film because it's just uninspired the way it's shot. It's just very, very dingy in the worst ways, and it's just not inspired. It's not dynamic. It's not filmed in meaningful ways. The camera angles and everything, the framing, it's just lifeless, and completely bland characters throughout. Pretentious dialogue that doesn't make any sense. I don't know where this film really went. It never went anywhere really, and really meant nothing. It was just pointless once again for me. Fine if you like it, great. For me, I hated this film. It was kind of funny to kind of just just be like, wow, this film is so bad and so boring, and just laughable throughout. But at the end of the day, I did get bored out of my skull, and yes, another Refn film I despise for the most part, Valhalla Rising. Now here we move on to the Refn films I like at least, and this next one is really controversial, and I still think it's underrated. I think it's average, but for the first half of the film, I really, really liked it, and it could have been called great if the last act and stuff was actually as good as or even better than the first half. But really, it averaged out to an average film. The Neon Demon. I did like this film overall, despite the first half I really, really liked. I connected with all the characters, the themes that he was exploring. Had a lot to say about the fashion industry and stuff, and just the way people perceive beauty and stuff, and just there's a lot of humanity definitely in there, and a lot of the relationships going on were really compelling. Elle Fanning was great, really great, and the cinematography, brilliant throughout the whole film. Really, I couldn't flaw that for the most part, and it wasn't pretentious or anything like that. That like Only God Forgives was for me, and it's just the style did not overtake the substance in the first half. It took a dip, and as I've said in my review, things just go down from kind of under par to awful, really. Pretty awful anyway. The last act is atrocious. It did not make sense. I didn't get where he was going with it. It was pointless, Poor choice for the narrative to end up like that. It was sickening, gross out, offensive, and just I didn't connect with anything that happened in the last half an hour at all. So yes, but overall, as a whole, I did like the Neon Demon. Definitely check it out. I would really recommend it, and it's very unique. And it's the first half I really did really enjoy. But overall I'd still recommend it, but it's average for me. And my 7th favourite Refn film. Now we have probably no one's ever heard of these next films. Some of these next films, the Pusher trilogy. And the Pusher one was his debut feature film, and it's still unknown really, still not really heard of. The Danish crime films, of course, and the first one, it comes on this set, the Pusher trilogy, is Pusher One. I thought this was a good film. I did like it. I thought the first half was a lot stronger though. Was really good actually for the first half. Mads Mikkelsen, off the wall, but really enjoyable and really good characters. Well written, throughout it was quite well written actually, it didn't really dip in that sense. It's just, in the second half, Frank becomes the main character, played by Kim Bodnia, who, although really showed his talent in Bleeder, was not that good in this. And it was a bland protagonist, and it was a bit stale for the rest of the film. It never really picked up again. But really, it's still a good film, and yeah, of the Pusher trilogy, Pusher 1 is the weakest, but still a good film. And that was number 6. Number 5, is Pusher 3 from the Pusher trilogy. Now, this was a lot better than Pusher 1 for sure. The character of Milo, really, really good as a protagonist. Again, it's a lot more human than things like Only God Forgives and stuff. It's really true. It's gritty, and it did have a lot of flaws that came back from Pusher 1. I found flaws in Pusher 1's camera work and just a couple of things here and there that were quite flat. This one, really, for the most part, it is great, and I still think I gave it a 90% actually. I think I still think it's a great film, but it was for the most part really compelling, really human. Had a lot of comedy in there, and I connected with a lot that was going on. It was just a really well made film, and very brutal and graphic, but done in a good way. And the themes he dealt with, and little other things like prostitution and stuff, were really powerful. It's a powerful film for sure, and the struggle of this main character Milo, really, really compelling arc, and a couple of other side characters as well, really good, well written. A great film for sure. Pusher 3, just not quite as good as his top 4. Now 4 and 3 of his films, number 4 and 3, very, very close, because I saw this next one before my number 3, and I gave them the same rating on my channel, and I thought they were both absolutely stunning, and I didn't think number 3 would beat this actually before watching it, but yes, this next one, number 4, is final in the one dimension of the Pusher trilogy. Pusher 2, with Blood on My Hands. Now, this is a stunning film, easily the best of the trilogy, and Mads Mikkelsen just gives a fucking stunning performance, really. Absolutely brilliant in this film, and perfect balance again of comedy, drama, grittiness, but also much better shot than the other two in the trilogy as well. That's what bumps it up a lot, is the way that it doesn't use a lot of this weak, for me, camera movements and shaky cam stuff and choppy editing, not done too well in Pusher 1 in particular, and the colour tones and everything, just the filmmaking is at its peak of the trilogy in this film. The arc is so strong, so focused, it's really stunning. There's a couple of things just early on, tiny bit flat for my liking, the scenes at the docks and stuff, and it's not quite an instant masterpiece. It wasn't that, and it wasn't. I thought it was a great film, not masterpiece. I didn't feel like I did with some films that I call instant masterpiece. And overall I didn't think it was quite on that level. A lot of it was stunning throughout, especially the second half of the film, and I gave this a 97%, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant film. Recommend this whole trilogy, and Pusher 2 is easily the best. It's just so focused, so powerful, human, and it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking, and just highly enjoyable throughout. Now we have number 3, and this is the one that was very close to Pusher 2, but I just think I have to say I prefer this. I just connected with it a bit more, enjoyed it from start to finish more than Pusher 2, and I just found it more of a charming film, and just a warmer film for the most part, and it had more of an ensemble, bunch of characters that and it's in some ways just as powerful as Pusher 2 for me, because I connected with it, and then when things did happen, it meant a bit more for me, and that is as part of this double pack, Bleeder, number 3. Now this is a stunning film. It's on my favourite films list as well. Not quite perfect, and a couple of scenes just early on, a bit flat, and it just wasn't quite for every part of the film a masterpiece, but at times it was for sure, and overall it's a great film. It's it kind of explores cinephilia that in ways that I've not really seen in another film before. It has these group of characters with wonderful performances. Latka Burek again returning. all the a lot of regulars returning, and Kim Bodnia, sorry, Mads Mikkelsen. They're all so well written characters, so well performed by the cast. It's so enjoyable, this film, and not just that. It really is powerful stuff. Especially the last third of the film is just really off the charts. What I thought this could be. It's so underrated, this film, believe it. It's unbelievable, actually. This is, if any of these films, I would say is underrated, and ones that I would say definitely check it out, because you might find something that is really just an undiscovered gem. I would say Bleeder for sure, because most people have seen Drive and stuff, and of course I think they are better than this. Drive and of course Bronson, because they're the only two that remain. But considering how little this is talked about, Bleeder, it's just so brilliant, and cared about everything going on. Characters, thoroughly powerful, but also very, very pulpy kind of film, and just so enjoyable, so warm, and the romance, everything, brilliant. Not quite masterpiece, but a great film for sure, and I love it, absolutely love it. Now these next two are masterpieces, and here they are, of course, Drive and Bronson. I absolutely love them both. They're both, for me, some of the best, their respective decades. Bronson, one of the best of the 2000s, and then Drive, one of the best of the 2010s. Both got central performances that are absolutely stunning. For me, they're especially my number one, pretty much flawless, and for sure masterpieces. I have to say, not quite on the level of my number one, but still a masterpiece. I would say Bronson. Now this is also quite underrated, actually. Tom Hardy, and of course everyone's pretty much, pretty familiar with the Charles Bronson case, Britain's most notorious prisoner. When I first saw this film, maybe 2010, 2009, I was just kind of blown away by it, and it's just grown on me ever since. I think I've seen it 4 times now, all the way through, and everything. This is like a Clockwork Orange, in the sense that it's in terms of the narration and the way that the classical music is used and everything, it's very much like a take on that, but it's its own thing. Of course, there's nowhere to compare, because Clockwork Orange for me is one of the finest films ever made, right at the top. But Bronson it shares a lot of qualities, and if you like Clockwork Orange, you might think. But yeah, it's not just that. This is a gritty film, but it puts you in a kind of a trance. The editing is just so perfect, really. The use of music, both pop music and classical, wonderful, pretty flawless. The performances are stunning. Tom Hardy in particular gives one of the best of the 2000s for me, and it could be his best performance, along with another one I'll maybe mention on my channel at some point. It's just stunning, really. The only flaw would be one or two moments. The scenes where he's talking to the crowd and stuff in his mind. One of the scenes goes on a bit too long. It's not that funny, and the other bit was just a bit of a unnecessary graphic scene, which comes very early on. But yes, really, Bronson is a stunning film. Great characters, all of them side characters. It's a charming film. The way that the humour, the kind of wit of the picture, and Tom Hardy's narration and performance. But it's also very, very powerful and human. Stunning film, and for me, a flawed masterpiece. And then of course we have Drive. There's no doubt now, after rewatching it this year a couple of times, that Drive is his true masterpiece. It's flawless, and a lot of people say it's one of the best of 2010s. For sure, agreed. No denying that. It's definitely among them. And it is a perfect film for me, really, and wonderful. Ryan Gosling. I had high expectations for this, but they were exceeded, really. Ryan Gosling's just brilliant in this film, along with La La Land, actually, which not a lot of people would say is one of his best performances. Along with that, I think this is his best performance. I could give the edge to this in terms of the performance. But yeah, really everyone involved: Carey Mulligan, Oscar Isaac, Bryan Cranston, even Ron Perlman, who I normally don't like as an actor. You know, all these people, all these actors, brilliant, and it's such a unique film. It just the narrative is so strong. Everything involved in the filmmaking, the direction, the editing, the cinematography is stunning. You know, the neon sort of esque, and he's kind of this was the one where he's kind of stuck to this style for his last three films in terms of the cinematography. You know, the lighting and the colours and everything, and just the way it's framed, the framing and everything, the angles. But from start to finish, you know, this is the one that really is his perfect film, and he found all the perfect balance of all of his traits and his unique qualities. Really, you know, it just compels me and moves me so much. Unbelievable, really. Stunning film, just every moment, really, and so moving, so uplifting. You know, magical, and you know, brutal in the best ways. You know, the violence is perfected in this film. You know, it's never gratuitous. It always says something about, you know, the characters, and they're always human. The characters in this film. There's no pretentious moments at all, and you know, an ambiguous ending, really, you could say. Um, but yes, it's just the right note, really, to end it on. And Drive, for sure, one of the best films of the 2010s. You know, I've seen better ones, but really, it's definitely it will be on my list of, you know, best of the 2010s when I eventually do that. It would definitely be appearing. And yes, Drive. If you've not seen it, you know, definitely watch it. And if you have, I think you could maybe agree that it is a stunning film. And for me, it's a flawless masterpiece and Refn's best film. Drive. And there we have it, the ranking of the Nicolas Winding Refn films. And you know, check out, of course, my playlist, which will be the individual reviews in there, and of course this. And yeah, Refn, really, when he's on form, in particular, you know, he's the top 5 films that I've mentioned. He's a great director, and yeah, he's had a few misfires, but a lot of directors have. Not all directors, but you know, they were just very experimental, I suppose, and yeah, really, only God Forgives is the one that really goes out its way to offend me. The others I can just dismiss as really just failed films, but yes, overall, though, I really love Nicolas Winding Refn, and just his unique style and everything, and the fact that a lot of his films are so human and compelling, and yeah, he's just a great filmmaker overall, definitely. So thanks for watching my ranking of the Nicolas Winding Refn films, and yeah, you know, I'll do some more director series and rankings, of course, in the future. And you know, Ozu is going to be a director who's it's going to take ages to see all of his films. But I will eventually even do a ranking of him. Other ones I've got planned. I might as well start, you know, my Hitchcock one very soon, because I have been, for the last year in particular, last 2 years, been actually going through a lot of his films, not in order, and watching them. And he's one of my five favourite directors. So that'll be really interesting to do. I'm not sure if I upload his films in order, but I will be doing all the ones that I see from now on, really, and going back to the ones I've watched to re-watch them, and I'll be putting a playlist of his films in particular up, and then eventually do a ranking of his roughly 50 films. But yes, no, I've got a lot of director series that I'm doing, and this one was very, very enjoyable, apart from them three, you know, the three worst. But yes, thanks for watching my ranking of the Refn films.